If sex has changed in your relationship after 40, if desire feels lower, tempers feel shorter, or connection just feels harder, you might be assuming it's for a relationship reason, but sometimes it's not. For many couples, it's not about love. It's not about effort. It's not about attraction. It just may be about hormones. So today I'm talking with a hormone doctor, Dr. Tara Scott, about what actually happens to women's bodies in their 40s and 50s, how those shifts impact mood, energy, and libido, and what couples can realistically do about it. So listen in. Welcome to Sex for Couples, helping you and your partner stop stressing and start having fun in the bedroom again. Hello, my friends. We are here today with a hormone expert. In fact, she is a board-certified OB-GYN, functional medicine doctor, and integrative medicine doctor. So let's welcome Tara Scott. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk again. So if any of you guys listening were at the Desire Revival Summit, Tara was one of the speakers there, and I just loved our conversation so much. And I felt like I was really learning a lot about hormones, and I think your perspective on it is great. And I know you said you've been specializing in this area for 20 years, so it's not an accident. You've got the clinical experience to back it up. So before we hit record, we were just talking about, what are some of the reasons why people might need to look at their hormones, especially when it comes to their sex life? What are some of the common ones you see?
Yeah, so you mentioned kind of like the natural segues of your cycles as far as what I'm looking for, life stages. So getting pregnant, delivering a baby postpartum, those are the couple shifts. Well, I mean, puberty is in there.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't really think about puberty as far as desire as much. So it's really 20s, pre-fertility, pregnancy, postpartum are the biggest hormone shifts between your 20s and maybe late 30s, early 40s.
Yep.
When you get 40s, you're getting more into the perimenopause hormone shifts where it's kind of a little bit of a roller coaster.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Your 5 hormones can be going any which way, right? And then menopause, which is defined as 1 year without a period, is the kind of the later hormone shift that we more naturally see shift in desire. But the ones that aren't as clear cut are those between 20s and 40s when it's related to stress. So you know more than, a clinician that, it is part clinical, but it's also part mind body, right? So desire is so intricate in the sense that it is a lot of hormones. It's the 5 hormones. It's more, but it's family of origin. Did you have shame? How was sex talked about? It's your learned experiences collectively. Actually, it's your relationship. So there's all those things. And then you throw in the stressors, do you have little kids at home? Do you have a really demanding job? Are you, those are the more common ones for younger women.
Okay. That makes sense. And do you work exclusively with women or do you also see men?
We see men in our practice, and I have a team of 4 right now. For me, being an OB-GYN for so long, I'm just talking to men. I don't really want to talk about directions, so I don't meet too many men and see mostly women in my practice. But yeah, we do help men.
That makes sense. Because I was curious. I'm like, is andropause like a thing? How much of a thing is that?
So the crazy thing about men is for libido, desire, you need 2 things. You need blood flow and you need optimal level of testosterone. I mean, a man can really be stressed at work. He could get, his dog could die. He could lose his job. He gets shot in the leg. As long as he's got blood flow, testosterone, a little swing, and he's like ready to go, right?
Oh my God.
For women, you have to have all of your hormones aligned. You have to have, again, perceived experiences, your relationship. Do you feel intimate? And then all your hormones. Did you eat too much? What's your mind doing? All that kind of stuff. So it's not as easy a path to figure out the hormonal women as far as libido.
That's so interesting.
It's interesting because men sex to relax, and women need to relax to be able to have sex. So
Yes.
our focus is a bit different. And, now
Yeah.
we've been, I'm sure the original theory of the Masters and Johnson theory and the trajectory doesn't really apply as much as Rosemary Bassan's like circular theory of desire, that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women have sex and desire comes after. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all those nuances that are different in the different sexes.
That is interesting. I also think for me, it's been interesting with men where, especially when they're in a committed long-term relationship, I have found that a lot of them really need the emotional piece and the emotional intimacy to be on point. But everyone seems to be wired a bit differently. And I wonder if that does have to do
Highly
with
variable
hormones.
based on the individual. I think there are people there are men who are emotional and need that intimacy
Totally.
and not just
Yes.
sex to have sex as a release. And there's
Mm-hmm.
completely robots and don't have the emotional
Yeah.
depth.
Right. Like, I
And,
don't have to like her. It's fine. Yeah.
and so maybe their focus is, production at work and accolades and, this is
Mm-hmm.
a side thing. It's everybody's different.
Yeah, I think I mentioned also before we hit record that I think my estrogen levels were like, might have been estrone. I don't know if it was estrone or estradiol. I think it was estrone was like 300% of what it was supposed to be when I was in my like mid 30s. But I think for me, I've gone down the genetic rabbit hole, and I have some genetics that predisposed me to elevated levels of estrogen. So I worked with a naturopath at the time, and we got things to be balanced out. But that was
You would
interesting
think
too.
more estrogen would help you because estrogen is crucial for your libido and desire and
Mm-hmm.
sexual function. But it kind of goes, the hormones are not linear. Like the more you have, the better, the better, the better. It's a
Yeah.
curve. So low, not good. You reach that peak and then it starts going down the other side. So the
Yep.
more estrogen you have, it could be a detriment.
What are kind of the optimal levels? Because I'm sure with your functional medicine background, you might say a different range than other people
Well,
would.
so part of the issue is that if you look at the normal menstrual cycle, when we're talking about the normal ranges, they're divided
Yeah,
up to the phase in the cycle. So you've
that
got
makes sense.
follicular, which is from day one of your period until you ovulate. You've got
Yeah.
that 2 day window with ovulation where you have a spike in hormones, and then the luteal phase from after ovulation to next period, and then you've got your post-menopausal phase. So there's usually 4 different normal ranges for female hormones. And
Okay.
that's why you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, we don't check hormones because they vary too much. Yeah, that
I
is
do
true.
hear that. Yeah.
They do vary too much. That is true. But if you are a trained, seasoned hormone provider, you can make sense of hormone labs when you know
Okay.
when they're done. Like you
Okay.
have certain labs that are done on day 3 that reflect how hard is it to get the egg ready. Is your what we call ovarian reserve, which means like how many eggs you have left, your fertility, how is that?
Mm-hmm.
Day 10, right before ovulation, are you making a lot of estrogen? Are you having issues here? Versus day 21, did you make the proper amount of progesterone and how are you doing? And then some people kind of trail off by 26, 27 and don't have enough progesterone and have a certain set of symptoms before the period starts. So
Okay.
we do testing, traditionally a lot of the testing is either done day 3 for your fertility and day 21 for your hormone balance with progesterone. But, knowing when to check what hormones is really important.
Okay. I know when I've gotten my levels tested, because I think I've been paranoid. I'm like, I'm in my 40s. Are my hormones dropping? What's happening?
Yeah.
But, sort of they've looked normal, but that doesn't mean I don't have symptoms too. So
Sure.
how do you work with people who maybe are having either low libido or vaginal dryness or, well, I'm actually curious, what other symptoms do you hear about a lot?
Well, hormones are a messenger, right? They've got to get into
Yeah.
the cell, they've got to work. So the actual level
Okay.
that's circulating your blood is part of the story. So
Mm-hmm.
once the hormone leaves the blood and gets into your tissue, let's just say
Mm-hmm.
your breast or your vagina, like
Mm-hmm.
what does it do in that cell? Does it convert to a different hormone? Because we have peripheral conversion from testosterone to estrogen, from estradiol to estrone, from DHEA to estrone. So we have these things that are going on outside of the blood. I mean, so that would be, I kind of explain it to my patients. Like, let's just say my 19-year-old daughter leaves the house in sweats, and I say on a Friday night, and I'm like, I'm the best mom. She's going to the library on a Friday night, pat on the back. She gets to her friend's house. She changes into a tank top and a mini skirt, pulls out a fake ID, and goes clubbing. Well, I never see that happen because it doesn't happen in my house, right? It happens outside my house, somewhere else. So blood is a highway that's taking your hormones from point A to point B, from your ovary to your vagina, to your brain, but nothing's happening in the blood.
Yeah.
It's just like a highway. So we also do salivary testing, which is thought to mimic the levels that's in your tissues, because when the blood gets to the salivary gland, then the proteins that are the little taxi cabs that are drawing that all over, they release it. The hormones are free. We also do what's called blood spot testing, which is, you prick your finger for your sugar. We can also prick your finger, that's whole blood, for hormones. That's called blood spot. And then we do something called urine testing. It's available both dried urine or like little vials of urine. And that's telling us what's going on with your hormones. How are they being metabolized? What are the receivers doing? Like, are you making a lot? Are you holding on to a lot? That kind of taps into the genetics that you talked about, like don't process and metabolize estrogen correctly. That's where we would see those certain markers in the urine. And so there's a lot of genetics that goes into the way your body processes hormones. And then, estrogen detoxification, the first 2 steps are in your liver, but then the 3rd step's in your gut. So if you're not pooping every day,
this is just wild. Like, I don't even know how you know. That's how I felt last time we talked. I was like, I know 20 years is a lot, so of course you know it all, but like
20 years is a long time to learn, and the more you learn, you figure out, the less you know. There's just what's really amazing is, so I started down this journey actually 2003 with my first course, and became a certified menopause practitioner in 2006. So at the time, even now in 2026, I think there's really only maybe 3,000, maybe 5,000 tops in the United States that are certified menopause practitioner. And how many are nurses, versus nurse practitioners, PAs, whatever. So there's not a lot in the country, if you think about it. It's really growing. But when I started down this road, we didn't have a lot of the data that we have now. The microbiome, we hadn't even mapped the human DNA till around 2003. So how do we even know about these genetic predispositions that are different in your liver? So, even though it's taken a long time to master certain things, more and more data keeps coming out. Even just recently with your microbiome, your estrogen levels in PCOS affect your gut. Your gut affects your PCOS. Menopause, it affects the balance of your microbiome, but also that balance, there's certain enzymes that can help recirculate your estrogen. Well, if it does that too much, you can have too much estrogen. If it doesn't do it enough, you can have too little.
So what would be some of the symptoms if you have too much estrogen versus too little? What might
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Like the most common things from too much estrogen would be weight gain, specifically the breast or the hips, heavy bleeding, migraines, water retention, kind of like a puffiness. Some people have anxiety. The migraines is a big one from too much estrogen, but it's usually a physical. Think about a pregnant lady. Breasts grow, hips grow, weight goes up, water retention, you get puffy. That's because it's not the same form of estrogen. It's estradiol. It's a lot of estriol, which is made both by the placenta and the fetus, but it's estrogen. Estrogen is a growth hormone. Yeah. So those are the biggest symptom of too much estrogen.
I also had hair loss.
Yeah, you can have hair loss from too much estrogen, not balanced by progesterone as well. So, the symptoms of too little estrogen are a little bit more well known, because those are that's what happens in menopause. The hot flashes, the vaginal dryness, the dry skin, the dry eyes, the itchy skin, the itchy ears, the fatigue, that you can get hair loss there too as well. Also weight gain as well in menopause.
Oh my gosh.
it's like Goldilocks. You have to have the right
Okay.
amount of estrogen for yourself, and that yours, Heather, may be different than mine. Our
Yeah,
sweet,
I'm sure it is, right? Because like we all have different thoughts and beliefs, different lifestyles, different genetics. So it sounds very customized.
yeah, it's very personalized. You're right. So if there's ever a
Yeah.
time that medicine and treatment needs to be personalized, it's with
Hmm.
hormones.
Okay. It's so fun. I'm actually going to my primary care office after this to talk about perimenopause. That's so funny. I didn't
Good
even
luck.
realize it was on the same day until I was like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually what I'm doing later. So I'll
Okay.
be very well equipped going into that appointment. Um, but yeah, I think because of what you're saying, and it's like you can't give generic advice on what everyone should do because everyone's bodies are so different. Like, what do we need to do? Like, do we need to go get like thousands of dollars of testing done? Like, what's
Let's start with just talking about, like we started talking a little bit about the symptoms. I mean, you
yeah.
have a hormone imbalance even with regular periods, but if you do have an irregular period, that's more of a sign that there could be something off.
Okay.
We say that a statistically normal period is 28 days. When you have a period that's a
Mm-hmm.
little shorter, as
Mm-hmm.
far as 24, 25, generally it suggests that you have a low progesterone. Now,
Okay.
it could also be as you're getting up there in age that you ovulate earlier, and you also could have low estrogen, but that's generally what it means. Now, if you have a
Okay.
longer cycle that you don't ovulate, 35, 37, that also can be low progesterone because you may not be ovulating once you get past 35 days. So if you don't
Okay.
ovulate, make progesterone. So cycle length does give us some insight into what could be going on with your hormones. And so,
Interesting.
as I mentioned, the most common symptoms of high and low estrogen were the ones we talked about. Progesterone starts to
Mm-hmm.
drop as your eggs age and you don't make as much. In your late 30s, early 40s at the earliest, progesterone helps you fall asleep, stay asleep. So, when you start seeing that you're
Okay.
not sleeping as well, you're not falling asleep, your mind's going, that could be a sign that you have low.
Mm-hmm.
When you start seeing that you're having more breast tenderness, that could also be low progesterone relative to estrogen. And also,
Okay.
progesterone in your body is a natural anti-anxiety. So when you start feeling more irritable, that could also mean that you have low progesterone.
Oh.
So those are the main things. And so your original question was like, what do we do? Do we get thousands of testing? I mean, testing has come a long way as well. Now there's
Okay.
so companies that are direct to consumer, because the problem with this type of medicine is we don't have the training. So
Mm.
as an OB-GYN, I can tell you we don't get training this. You would think your OB-GYN would. I could do a C-section in a minute and deliver a baby within a minute from
Yeah.
skin to delivery, but could I balance some of the hormones when I graduated? No. So it was really the years extra training that I did that gave me
Okay.
the knowledge. So a family practice doctor probably also gets very little training in hormones and
Mm-hmm.
menopause and perimenopause. So now it's pretty easy to look at people's social media and see, oh, they, have that designation that they're certified menopause practitioner, or they've done this type of training, to see who's done a little extra.
Yeah.
So outside of being able to get testing, because you may not be able to get testing either because you don't know what testing to get. Now, like I said, there are some direct to consumer testing, so you don't need a doctor to order it. You can
Mm-hmm.
on your own, which is nice. There's some urine monitoring systems. There is some things that are being developed that are other ways that you can order your own tests. But
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're not provider trained, maybe you're not doing it on the right day. So what can you do?
Yeah.
What are the things that everyone can do to
Yeah.
balance hormones? Really, is what we should really talk about. There's basically 4 pillars of
Okay.
hormone balance. And so the first one is movement. It's just movement. Like,
Oh.
obviously, if you're sedentary, that's going to affect the way your hormones are. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be running a marathon and running 25 miles a week, but you got to move your body. So
Okay.
whether it's 8,000 steps a day, I think that's the new thing that says you don't need
I
to
heard
get
that
10,
too. Yeah.
get 8,000, whether you're, using a treadmill desk, whether you like to exercise, a combination of some cardio, some interval training, and some weight training is good for what you're doing. Or maybe you're just walking, or maybe you're just doing yoga, but you got to move your body. That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
Second thing is, what do you put in your mouth? Your food. And I don't want to say diet, but we all eat differently. We have different preferences. Some people may be diehard vegetarians, and other people may be carnivores. So you should definitely eat according to your preference. But what you need to be conscious of is, like, are you eating the rainbow? Do you get enough vegetables? Even if you are a carnivore, like maybe you don't want starchy carb vegetables, but are you doing the green vegetables, the leafy green? So did you eat the color of the rainbow? Are you eating food in its naked form? Is that identify that this is, or does it have a barcode on it, right? Is it packaged? So those are the big things about, like, where I went wrong as a busy resident and then an OB-GYN mom of 3 little kids. It was a lot of packaged processed foods that I was eating. So I had to all my diet to do that. So it's food pairing, it's obviously quantity, it's quality and food. So
if you are digging this episode, give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us to keep producing the show, to grow the show, get all the amazing guests that you want, and spread the word about sex education and lots of fun and orgasms and playfulness and happy faces. So follow the show.
Am I eating just a carb meal? Am I eating a carb with a protein and a fat? So a lot of that is really important for hormone balance. Food is our building blocks. So we need, your omega-3s. We need your good fats for your hormones are fat-loving hormones. So you do need the right fats as building blocks to make your hormones. Also, all of our hormones come from cholesterol. That's the precursor.
So interesting, right?
Yeah. So you have to have some of the fats, to make that, and you need your nutrients. So food is super important. So by cleaning up your food and your diet and what you eat, that could be really helpful. The third thing is sleep. So some people feel like they don't need a lot of sleep, but whether you feel rested or energized on 5 or 6 hours of sleep, your body does need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. You have certain hormones that are produced at night, not just melatonin, but also your growth hormone, other hormones that your body needs to do muscle repair, for your brain to work, for your work. So allowing yourself enough sleep and getting good quality sleep is important. So, whatever your circadian rhythm is, whether you're somebody who is, I don't remember, if there's lion and bear, whatever, like, do you like to get up morning, that you're allowing yourself, maybe you like to go to bed at 1 o'clock, but you never get up before 9 o'clock. So that's fine. That works.
That's me.
But identifying that's going to be really important for yourself to know what works for you, instead of trying to shove yourself into somebody else's circadian rhythm, but making sure you're getting enough sleep is really important. And then, also, there's a 5 pillar. So the fourth one is stress. So obviously I used to tell people to reduce stress, but there's always another stress that maybe you can't
really is
control. Maybe it's a toxic mother-in-law. Maybe it's a sick child. Maybe it's you need to work too many hours. You can't cut back because you need to financially work these hours.
Right.
So you can't always control what stress you're exposed to, but what you can control is how your body responds to stress. So having some kind of tool over the course of your life is great. Some people it's meditation, some people it's yoga, some people it's Netflix, some people it's reading, they just read. And that's the thing. Knit work, needlework is
I've heard that anything repetitive is supposed to kind of be good for your mood too.
Patients said it's ballroom dancing. You just have to identify for you what is it that helps relieve stress, bring you joy, that kind of thing. And I guess if I could add a 5th one in there, it's your environment.
Let's do it.
Your environment is something that is why. Now, if you think about it, I know that you're a bit younger than me, but when I grew up, girls that were 14 don't look like girls that are 14 today. And it's not Sephora, right? It's not skincare. They're actually having puberty earlier, right?
Yeah.
they've done studies, and the American Academy of Pediatrics wanted to lower the average age of puberty. Instead of saying, boy, more and more people are having puberty earlier, they're going to change the definition, which isn't what it should be. It'd be like more
That's
people
weird.
have earlier puberty. It's because of the endocrine disruptors in our environment. So we've identified toxins. The World Health Organization classifies an endocrine disruptor as anything that either tricks your body into thinking it's a hormone, or slowing the processing of a hormone, or speeding up the process of a hormone. It could affect your thyroid. It could affect your androgens, with testosterone or estrogen. They also less commonly affect your progesterone, but mostly what they're doing is they're stimulating estrogen receptors, so your body is getting more estrogen without getting balancing progesterone. So it could be plastics. I mean, I know Tupperware, heating in microwave, like I said way back, and when I was eating all my processed food, of course it was all wrapped in plastic and I was sticking it in the microwave, right?
Oh my God.
So all of that, the glass water bottles, the glass Tupperware, cosmetics that what we're putting on our skin, the preservative in our food. So a lot of that, like just cleaning up your environment, hair, like room by room, bathroom cleaning products.
But like, this is exhausting. I mean, like, I totally agree. Everything you're saying is so correct. And I think most people listening are like, I know I should like work out and eat well and stuff. And I also just want to acknowledge that in order to be a healthy human, you basically have to go against the grain of like everything about how society is set up. And it's exhausting. And so I just want to acknowledge that. So I feel that. I'm actually really curious to hear about how you changed your diet, given that you're such a busy, working mom.
It didn't happen overnight. It I mean, that's so overwhelming, So
it is.
First thing that happened really, and honestly, my first daughter, we were feeding her baby food out of a jar when she was like 14 months old, because I was like, what, we're supposed to give her table food? I didn't know. I thought we were just supposed to give her baby food. It's like how, like it was easy, just pop open the thing. So she ended up being a super picky eater at first.
Interesting.
And everything. So when I had my next children, which was twins, the second time, I'm going to feed them everything. So it was somewhere around there. They were already born that I was going through a lot of my functional medicine training and learning about food and how many chemicals are in milk, and
it's like so stressful to think about all of it.
Right. And so it was slow. It was really slow. And so, taking out the heat and eat stuff and trying to convert to eating food in excess. So it was over a long period of time. And then when it got to be the detox, my world, it was a one room at a time. So let's do products, as something runs out, let me replace it for something else. Let me not use the dryer bounce.
I like that approach, because if you were to like try, because I think so many people, and I see this too, when we're trying to make changes, we're like, I have to overhaul everything because I have all this time. And it's like the stress and the anxiety of that is probably worse for you than having a few toxins.
I don't think it's sustainable. I think if you try to do it once, I think you're asking for someone to fall off the wagon. So, one, might say, hey, each room of the house, 1 month each this year. Like, so there's 12 months. So January is like the laundry room. Okay. So stain stuff, my dryer balls, I'm not going to use the dryer sheets. I'm going to use a better detergent.
Yes. This is the way to do it. I love that. One room at a time, 1 month. It's not overwhelming. You're like, okay, I can buy like 4 different things this month. It's not.
The biggest thing is your personal care products, because to be honest, like some of the supernatural things maybe aren't the best for your hair. So a good balance of trying to do, non-toxic shampoo and skincare and makeup versus like, okay, maybe I do like this hair care product because it's really good. I'm going to do this one thing that's maybe not the best, but all these
that's
other
kind of how I am.
And I think also like what level of use are you doing it and how often are you exposed to? So for what's on your face, your largest organ, maybe you should splurge. And there's like one website that's 100% pure. It's like 100% pure, I think, spelled out. So all of all of their products, like I think my mascara was like out of fruit pigment. It smells but it's really good. There's a blueberry, but so things like that. I do have some mascara that's not from there. If I have an event or something that I'm going to want to use that, but on a daily basis, I'll use the fruit pigmented one or the non-toxic and making sure like everything's good, and maybe washing my hair less frequently because the shampoo I'm using like a non wash hair wash now. But
Okay.
all of those things, like when you think about that, the environmentalworkgroup.org also has some great information about environmental toxins. They have
Okay.
something called the Clean 15. So, for
Uh-huh.
example, you don't have to get organic with avocados. That's on the list. That avocados,
Right.
depending on how thick of a rind they have or a skin,
Yes.
where they're grown, what pesticides are used, you don't have to get organic versus the
Mm-hmm.
dozen, which changes every year.
Mm-hmm.
These foods, strawberries, spinach are usually on there. You absolutely should get organic. So instead of
Yep.
thinking, oh my God, I can't afford all this, like consulting those lists and thinking like, oh, I don't have
Being
to get,
selective.
this melon is this on this list or that list. I don't
Yeah.
use the list actually.
So as we're talking about this, like, do you think, so let's say somebody, recently had a baby or they're going through perimenopause like I am, if they're doing these 4/5 pillars, is that like, are they going to actually see a difference in their sex life? Like, are they going to notice like, oh, I'm like, my libido's
So
like balancing out
that's a great question. Those
yeah.
pills are going to be much better for balancing your estrogen if it's too high.
Mm-hmm.
Also, your cortisol if you're,
Okay.
but aging, you do make less progesterone. Some of those things aren't really going to help it. Genetics, like you mentioned, if you have the genetic predisposition to not get rid of estrogen,
Yeah.
you're going to need some other types of support. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good, those techniques, those 5 pillars really go further for people who are 20s and 30s. When you get into perimenopause,
Mm.
you're coming against some fluctuations in hormones that
Mm-hmm.
hard to eat your way out of that. Some people
Yeah.
need hormone support. Some people don't need hormone support.
Yeah.
Always, really fascinated. I had a patient that was a dairy farmer when I was doing
Oh,
OB-GYN,
interesting.
and she would get up like with the sunrise, and she would, make all her own food, and
Oh,
she
amazing.
menopause, and she really had no symptoms. So part of it,
Really?
her environment, like she lived away from EMF and all this was before cell phones and everything. So
Wow.
out of that, she ate all her own food, made butter, it made everything. So yes, some of that has to do with it. But if you have a predisposition to have hormone issues like I do, I mean,
And I do. Yeah.
even with everything that I did has been
Mm-hmm.
helpful for me to kind of navigate through my 10 plus years of perimenopause
Mm-hmm.
easier than maybe some people who don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm
still
such a big fan of finding out your genetics. I'm just going to put in a little plug for that. Like
and your hormone levels, and I think everybody's different, so I think it could be cool.
Yeah, I was kind of on the early end of that. Probably like 15 years ago. I mean, I don't even know, but I heard about like methylation and being an undermethylator, and I was like, that could explain a lot. And I had an integrative doctor at the time, and but yeah, I went down the rabbit hole of like, I got all my raw data from 23andMe. I uploaded it to some other websites. I got all my genetic SNPs. If people want to go down that rabbit hole, feel free to email me. Actually did a training with Ben Lynch, Dr. Ben Lynch. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think like learning about all of that, I'm very grateful for it, because now, I mean, I'm obviously not super worried about my health information, but I have it uploaded to AI. So then I have like AI analyze. I'll be like, hey, these are the symptoms based on my genetics. What do you think could be going on? And
awesome.
At least get some theories. I don't think we should have AI be our doctors, but
I think that genetic blueprint really can be helpful for people.
It really can.
That you don't have to keep repeating. So it's a good investment once you do it once.
It is.
Genomics aren't likely to change. I mean, obviously, the genes just load the gun, the environment. So I have very bad methylation gene. I mean, my genes are pro breast cancer. I mean, they're like bad.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm one of 3 sisters, and out of the 3 of us, I had the most problems getting pregnant. And I would say that, not that I'm the healthiest, but I mean, I've been always like to exercise and really invest in my diet. I've had the most hormonal issues, out of the 3 of us. And so I know that I think I've looked at both of their genomics, and I think that mine were a little bit worse as far as the
Okay.
SNPs.
Yep.
It is interesting how that all ties into it. So I do think that's a good investment, but you've really got to work with a knowledgeable provider. So
Yeah.
like you, because there's a lot of stuff that you can get stuck in the weeds of, oh, I can't
Yep.
have this supplement because I have this. Well, again,
Yeah.
know how those enzymes are really functioning. You just know that
That's
what is,
very good advice.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I
So,
think I met with a genetic consultant who was like, you can't do this. And I'm like, I'm not finding that that's the case. I think it's more important to listen to your body. Maybe you
yeah.
explore some theories, but it would be like, oh, don't eat this or that. And, reduce sulfurous vegetables. I'm like, I feel great when I eat those.
Yeah. See,
I
so
feel
that's your
better.
microbiome piece. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily genomic driven,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's a very complex thing.
It
But it is
is.
a great piece of the puzzle, and the
It
you know
is.
4/5 pillars, I think, are things that really, from an early age, you should kind of have on top of the mind. And I think the younger generation
Mm-hmm.
is a bit better than us with some of the stuff. I think
Yeah.
they're much better with self-care and boundaries and that kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I think I saw statistics like they're drinking less alcohol
For
and
sure. Yeah.
that kind of thing. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I,
It's interesting how many factors go into it. One of the other things I want to ask you about is how much do we just kind of need to accept the changes? Because the hormonal fluctuations of, pre and post pregnancy and then perimenopause and menopause, like it's part of nature, right? Like we're supposed to have some fluctuations. And so I'm curious, like, how much of it do we just need to understand? Like, this is a phase that's going to be different and that's good and fine. And how much of it is like, let's go tweaking things?
I mean, I think, do you mean in general for hormones? Do you mean considering desire as the forefront, like metric? Because I think
Mm.
there's so much. I mean, yes, when I hear patients come in and say, I have a great marriage, we're very connected, we've always had a good sex life, but for now, I just am not interested, and that's not
Yeah.
me. Versus, yeah, I was a Catholic, very strict upbringing, and they kind of always had this type of thing. So, whether it's more of a mind body thing versus a hormonal
That's
thing,
true.
and
Yeah.
that can definitely put into it. And so, as far as your original question was, now I lost the question.
I
What
think
was your
I'm like when I think about, for example, like breastfeeding, right? Like breastfeeding can wind up lowering your
yeah.
libido because of the effect on testosterone. Um,
Yeah,
and
breastfeeding postpartum is a really hard thing because, first of
yeah,
all, the type of delivery, you're actually physically not supposed to have relations for a certain amount of time, just for
right,
healing. And then you got I know when I was breastfeeding my twins, the last thing I wanted was anyone touching me,
right,
And so you got somebody on you all the time, and so there's a lot of natural time. You're right, and then
yeah,
there's a sleep deprivation that you're gonna
yeah,
naturally have a little bit of a lower libido. And so it would be interesting to know, if you're somebody who, like you, or is mainly talking about libido, to some patients that can't wait to get back at it when the doctor
yeah,
says, versus those patients that are like, oh, thank God I don't have to,
yeah,
for this amount of time.
yeah,
So there are times that there are definitely some shifts. But what's interesting about menopause, per se, is that it's almost like a second awakening, because then your kids are out
mm,
of the house. There's a little bit less, maybe less responsibility with jobs. Maybe you're still working just as much. And so your sexuality and your time frame, you don't have to wait till everybody's in bed. If you want to have sex
yeah,
afternoon, on a Sunday, you can. So, I mean, a lot of it is fatigue and, stress that through one.
yeah,
So yeah, you have to weed kind of through that.
yeah. That makes sense. So it sounds like, yeah, some of it is natural. And also, if your libido is low, if you're experiencing vaginal dryness or pain during intercourse, look into it. It sounds like that's kind of
The other kind of caveat I'd like to stick in there at the last minute there is, though, stress depletes your testosterone. And
mm,
so your source of testosterone as a woman is something called DHEA, which is made in your adrenal gland. So it's almost like you got two opposite ends of a teeter-totter. One is cortisol, one is DHEA. So when stress goes up, kind of DHEA goes down. Now, when cortisol goes up and down, there's always a feedback loop to the brain saying, hey, it's low or it's high. There isn't a feedback loop for DHEA. So if your DHEA is decreasing, there's nothing to tell the brain that says, hey, we need more DHEA. DHEA turns into testosterone. So when you have depleted DHEA from chronic stress, eventually women can have depleted testosterone. And it may not be at menopause. It could be, I'm seeing women in their late 30s with low testosterone, in their 40s with low testosterone.
Absolutely.
And when we check the levels of testosterone, the level was always, for example, one assay was 16 to 55. And what they've done now, the lab looks at population data saying, my normal ranges should be 2 standard deviations from the mean. So now they've changed the normal range to 2 to 45, meaning that a testosterone level of 2 is normal. So unless you know, like, hey, wait a second, this normal range is not really accurate. It was always 16 to 55. So a level of 15 is low. Now you're telling me 2 is normal, which is not really. That's the population data that the labs do. And then looking at what's free versus bound, the free testosterone is like, it's like getting your paycheck and having some go to your 401k. You have it, but you can't use it. That's your bound levels. If you have a lot of bound testosterone and you don't have a lot of free, that's going to affect what can get into your cell and work.
Okay.
So DHEA levels dropping, testosterone levels dropping early, and a lot of people are not getting their hormones checked in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I know.
More are getting them checked in menopause, which is nice, but a lot of these younger women who are having shifts in libido, you might also see other symptoms with low androgens like fatigue, muscle, maybe less muscle mass, more of the vaginal dryness, your hair texture, dry eyes, low mood. So those are all also, your periods might be normal, but you could still have low testosterone. So that would be something that, that is something that we check at every age.
Okay. That makes sense. This has been so helpful. Again, thank you. If people are like, oh my gosh, this is so much. How do I learn more? How can I connect more with Tara Scott? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so Dr. Tara Scott's my website. We do have a free newsletter that comes out every Tuesday.
Okay.
We'd love for people to join out. We also have a free kind of a basic hormone course the link is up on our website. You can always check out my YouTube channel. I feel like the content is a little bit more searchable. Hormone Guru or Dr. Tara Scott. And then I also am on TikTok, Hormone Guru, and Facebook and Instagram as Hormone Guru MD. And so really trying to put a lot of free content out there, as well as some of our downloads. We've got a free download that's all about hormone testing that you can check it out and see before you go to your primary care doctor today. If that
Where's that one? Is that one at the hormoneguru.com?
Yeah, it's actually drtarascott.com. Yeah,
okay.
It's all on there. I mean, I think Hormone Guru might actually get you there, but I'm not exactly sure. So
okay, cool. I'm totally going to go print that out.
We did try to put last year, a lot of kind of free downloads and deliverables for people.
Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes for anyone listening so you can go grab some resources. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here. This was lovely. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you next week on another episode. Bye for now. Are you somebody who wants a better intimate connection with your partner, but feels like you're stuck in the same loops, lack desire, or just don't know why things aren't quite clicking? It can be frustrating because you want closeness and connection, but instead you're left guessing what's going on, feeling misunderstood, or wondering whether things will ever feel good again. So what if instead you could get clear on what's really holding you back and how to move forward with confidence? So that is exactly why I created the Why You're Stuck in a Sex Rut quiz. So this is a personalized quiz that helps you uncover the real reasons your intimacy isn't where you want it to be and gives you the insights that you can actually act on. Through the quiz, you'll discover what patterns are keeping you stuck, the hidden emotional or physical blockers that matter most, and actionable ways to start shifting things for the better. So if you want to finally understand what's really going on and how to get the spark back, Go to thebetterbedroom.com or click the link in the show notes and take the Why You're Stuck in a Sex Rut quiz.